Hello everyone and welcome to the program Business Points on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining on to this edition of the program. Yeah, although the smile is still on my face, but we're hoping it rebounds and then keep up because the Nigerian All-Share Index slipped below 64 trillion naira just on the just concluded trading section, which is actually a dip from the previous trading section that is starting off on Monday, because the Monday market opened up with a whole level of bullish trajectory coming in from the previous week, and then we witnessed a dip yesterday below the All-Share Index slipped rather below 64 trillion naira. Let me bring you up to speed. The Nigerian All-Share Index ended the trading section of January the 14th on a downtrend, shading 1,745.16 points to close at 103,622.09 points. This marks a 1.66% decline from the previous day's 105,451.06, pushing the index back into the range of 103,000. So we're witnessing a bearish trend in the All-Share Index. Now, what is the brain behind all of this? We would have that conversation still on today's edition of the program, but we'll be talking about all of this, and while we get ready to have this conversation, we'll be going on a very quick break, and then when we return back, Business Point continues. Please do stay with us. Yes, many thanks for staying with us. As I was saying before we went on the quick break, the Nigerian All-Share Index slipped by 64 trillion naira, which wasn't something we were expecting to happen within this month. So even start with, we were expecting to see a dip. If it will happen, though, is business. Obviously, we do have our rise and fall, and we were not expecting, analysts and business policymakers, investors, and all, nobody was expecting to see this dip at this level in this current state of the year. Though there have been projections that there would be a dip, but the dip was expected to come in within the last week of February, entering the first week of March, because of a whole lot of activities that would be going on, and then we expected a pickup towards the end of March, entering the month of April, May, and then during the first season around June, that's in the middle of the year, we expected to see a bit of backlogs. But now, what is really happening within this sector, and then why are we witnessing dip in this time of the year? We'll try to get to the root of all of this into this edition of Business Point as we have those conversations. But let me just bring you up to speed with the previous trading section. If you could remember, last week all through, not just last week, before last week, months ago, weeks and weeks ago, the Nigerian All-Share Index has been on a bullish trajectory, but still coming into this week, it came in with that same bullish momentum, and then as of yesterday, we witnessed a dip. So the Nigerian All-Share Index ended the trading section on 14 January on a downward trend, shading 1,574.16 points to close at 103,622.09 points. This marks a 1.66% decline from the previous day's 105,451.06 points, pushing the index back into 103,000 range. Trading activity saw a slight increase, with a total trading volume rising by 0.46%. So automatically, when you do the approximation, you still 0.4%. So to 508 million shares, up from 505 million shares in the prior section. So market capitalization declined significantly, falling to 63.1 trillion naira from 64.2 trillion naira, just above the 63 million naira threshold. So looking at those uncertainties over the inflation data as the MBS rather hack lingers. So now we've seen the MBS hack website has been lingering for quite some time now, for a couple of days now, and this is a very, very big concern looking at those angles. Now then, with all of this now, we are saying, or people are saying, business individuals and policymakers, researchers are making mentions of the fact that investors are losing confidence with the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics website being down. So on that note, they affected the all-share index, but there are still some numbers and a whole lot of questions that is up in the clouds for the MBS to answer, given the fact that a whole lot of persons have reacted, and policymakers, researchers also have concerns regarding the data and numbers that has always been released by the MBS. So let's talk about the uncertainty over inflation data as the MBC website hack lingers. The National Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria's key agency for data dissemination, is still ringing from a cyber attack on its official website, which occurred on December the 18th, 2024. As of January 14, 2025, the website remained inaccessible, with raising doubts over the timely release of the much anticipated consumer price index and inflation data, typically published on the 15th of each month. So we are expecting to get reports from the MBS today, and still, since almost a month now, the website has been down. So some investors are having cold feet. Some Nigerians are saying there've always been issues within the MBS, and then them not like giving the accurate data of the current situation of Nigerian inflation. So now, with all of this going on now, people are beginning to lose faith in the MBS. So we expect the MBS to also come and answer questions in that light. Lingering hack for over 3 weeks, Nigerians say you can't have a system like that and then wouldn't have a very strong body to be able to, recover your website if it gets hacked and then it has dragged for so much. So Nigerians are concerned, investors are concerned, and now already is showing negatively on the Nigerian all-share index market. So that's the concern on that note. So we expected to see that the report comes as soon as possible and all of this back and forth within the hack gets resolved. Still speaking on the hack came just days after the MBS released its controversial crime experience and security protection survey, which revealed that Nigerian paid an estimated 2.3 trillion naira in ransom within 1 year. So this is what Nigerians are hammering on. So the sensitive nature of this report fueled speculation about a possible link between the survey's release and the cyber attack. So looking at this now, they say this is what Nigerians are putting on, and then, saying this is one of the major reasons why the attack actually happened. And then the MDS come out to say that this report actually didn't come directly from them, that it came from devious people who hacked the system and then released that information. We all know that Nigerian economy, we don't tend to include prostitution and every other aspect, and then that's why we're looking at the rebasing system of Nigeria and then introducing more baskets into the current inflationary measure. So trying to expand the basket of what's currently going on in Nigerian system, that's the economy at large as we speak. So this back and forth going on has actually been the reason why the MBS has its website still down by hackers, cyber attack, and then we are looking at ways, avenues to be able to solve those issues. Moving away, I think there's a good news coming from Nigerian crude oil, as Nigeria earned 50 trillion from crude oil in the year 2024. Still talking crude oil, Crude for Naira initiative came in on the 1st of October last year, and which is helping, but now it's looking as if the cost of fuel is actually going to skyrocket again, looking at the fact that the lifting price is now at 950 naira. So, and then the independent petroleum marketers are also calling on the government for support on CNG buses. But let me bring you up to speed. The Nigerian crude oil revenue rose to about 50.88 trillion in the year 2024, finding it very relieving. Data obtained from the Nigerian Upstream and Petroleum Regulatory Commission, an agency of the federal government, confirmed that Nigerian produced a total of 408.6 million barrels of crude oil in the year 2024. As of January the 9th, 2025, report says by Statistical Research Department, the global statistical firm, showed that the average price of crude in the year 2024 was about $80.53 per barrel. So, if you remember, a couple of days ago, we witnessed that the crude oil price also in the global market jumped from $77 to a barrel to $80 a barrel. And now we are seeing marketers and refinery owners off-takers trying to increase the price from what it was to 950 naira. Now, we are seeing if petrol stations trying to say that the price of fuel, and independent marketers are saying that the price of fuel is actually going to go back up. Looking at the current slight decrease that we've witnessed, well, with this this will amount for $32.91 billion if it gets multiplied currently. And then with the coordinated totally oil production of 2024 was at 566.79 million barrels. Recall that Nigeria had planned to produce 649.7 million barrels of oil through the average daily output of 1.7 million barrels, I beg your pardon, in its 2024 budget, putting the crude oil price at $78 to a barrel, and the exchange rate at 750 naira to a dollar means the country had planned to generate $50.68 billion or 38.01 trillion naira from oil last year. So looking at this now, we didn't hit our mark, obviously, in terms of crude oil production in the previous year, but with Dangote Refinery and other refineries coming in place, the Warri Refinery is there, the Port Harcourt Refinery there, and then we're witnessing that in Kaduna now the refinery is beginning to come up, and then renovations and then servicing of those equipment are being put in place. So we are expected with the current budget for this year, which is meant to hit about 2.5 million barrels per day, we would be able to achieve all of that if all of these refineries are back on their feet and running. And then on that note, if that does happen, then these current prices that we are looking at will have a lot of crude, and then we'll have a whole lot of supply. So I think when there is competition within this sector, Nigerians, of course, for a full privatization of NNPCL, so as private investors will come in, so that there will be high level of competition within that sector, and then with that effect, if it does happen, then we would witness a significant drop in the current price of fuel. So looking at this now, food items have not come down, yes, because of the current state of the economy and then the inflationary measures, because currently food inflation is at 39.8% as of November. So now that hasn't still dropped, because still we are waiting on NBS to release its data, which is something we are expecting today. But now fingers are still crossed as we await and see if they have been able to recover the website, and then if we would have that data, because that data now is what's going to help researchers, determine if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's projection for the year 2025 is actually going to be visible, talking about the Naira being stable at 1,500, and also talking about inflationary measures being cut down by 15%. Currently, our inflation is at 34+%. So now and then the president has made a mention that he's going to cut it down to 15%. So automatically, is a 50% slash. So looking at all of this now, and then the NBS not having its data out there, we don't know how this would be able to happen. So there's so much negativity going on within the NBS, and then a whole lot of stuff's going on where they have said that the MBS are actually not being realistic with the data that they get to give the general public. So with all of these things now, we fingers are crossed, and then we just wait to see how today pans out with all of these incidents. So we'll be going on a quick break, and then when we return back, the federal government have put measures in place, supplying 255 tractors for food production to help cut down the current high rate of food items, or high cost of food items in the market. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Yes, many thanks for staying with us. The federal government says it has received more than 250 new tractors, with additional shipments arriving weekly. The tractor arrived in the country in 85 containers, each conveying 3 units of tractors. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kari, revealed this to the State House correspondent at this year's first edition of Meet the Press, organized by the Presidential Committee, a communications team at Sorok Villa, Abuja. This forms about 10% of 2,000 tractors expected from Belarus under the federal government's $1 billion agricultural mechanism program. So looking at all of this now, food inflation is actually high, and then lots of business and farmers have actually argued that they've not been able to access tools to be able to farm. So now the federal government, looking at this, it's $1 billion agricultural mechanism, which was something that was signed with Belarus as last year. They're looking to improve those sectors. Now, looking at this current sector and how to improve them. So aside insecurity being one of the major challenge and the major reasons why we're having a high rate of food, also we are not leaving the cost of fuel aside, we are not also leaving tariff aside, because all of these things fuel the current price of food items we're seeing in the market. So now the federal government are now taking steps towards the right direction in terms of providing tractors. Now, some have said it's not just tractors that they need. The main incident and then the main thing that they need is for the environment, that is the farmlands, to be safe, providing security, not just providing tractors. They've said that now they have tractors, still they can't use the tractors to go back to the farm. Why? Because the cost of items are actually the cost of the high level of insecurity in those communities are still high. We have a whole lot of internally displaced persons in most of the camps, and these guys, most of their jobs are just for them to farm. So now with this provision now, obviously, before the government would go ahead to provide these tractors, so measures have been put in place to be able to curb out the high rate of insurgents going on within communities. So with that being said, we are expected to see in the coming raining period and harvesting period to see a whole lot of food items. And then off-season farming also is something, again, Nigerian government and then this current administration is paying so much attention to be able to curb out most of those challenges that is being faced by these rural communities. Just a couple of days ago, the military had to warn farmers, that's in the Niger State, not to go to farm because of the fact that they detected a few missiles buried by bandits and kidnappers. So with that being said, though, the military have been able to defuse all of those and then made the environment safe for farmers to be able to go to farm. So these are what the government are expected to do, and then steps in the right direction is being taken and being put in place by this current administration. So on that note now, that is how we see that the agricultural sector is beginning is on its way to come back to life, and then Nigerians have lots of items, food items in the market at an affordable rate, to be able to, not to spend over 90% of their annual paycheck or monthly paycheck on food and food items generally. So looking at all of these angles now, we are hoping that this current initiative, the 1 billion agricultural mechanism initiative as created by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is going to help yield dividends, and Nigerians will enjoy under it the leadership rather of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, moving away from agriculture. Now, stability of Naira has been up for conversation for a very, very long time. The monetary team actually putting things in order to be able to see that the Nigerian Naira stabilized within 1,500 within this year. Looking at those angles now, we've seen that the president have said Naira is going to be stabilized at 1,500. Now, what happens if Naira gets stabilized at 1,500? So when we get this stability, right, we are expected to have more investors coming to the country, and then when we have more investors, automatically it opens room for more room for job creation. And then what then happens to Nigerian youth and the Nigerian economic system, and then the unemployment rate that we have, which is at 4%, we tend to see that is going to decline. Though some persons have argued that the unemployment rate is actually not at 4%, given the fact that they said they are not agreeing with the states and the data coming from the NBS. But the NBS has released the data saying that the Nigerian unemployment rate is at 4%. So looking at the Naira and dollar stability, which is currently, the dollar is currently being exchanged at 1,535 Naira, and then in the official market, and then it's being traded at the black market within 1,565 Naira, 1,568 Naira in the black market. So that is what we're looking at this current price, but this current rate. But the projection now and the plan for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is for it to be exchanged at 1,500 Naira, even at the black markets, meaning the FX inbound would actually have to skyrocket, and then avenues need to be created for us to be able to witness all of this. So projection have actually said that the Naira is actually going to rebound more against the dollar. 2 weeks ago, the Naira rebounded against the dollar with the electronic exchange rate that was created by the Central Bank of Nigerian President Governor Yemi Kala. So that initiative helped the Nigerian Naira rebound and then gained 1,125 Naira against the dollar. So with all of this initiative now, and then avenues being created, initiatives being created for more investors to come in, that is going to help, and then that's what's only going to make Nigerian Naira get stabilized at 1,500. So our fingers are still crossed. A lot of policymakers are making policies now, initiatives are coming into place, but most of the policies that we have already are excellently well on paper, and we are expecting full implementation so as Nigerians will be able to enjoy. So the woman in the market selling vegetable and pepper wouldn't bank on the dollar and say the dollar is the reason why her veggies are very expensive. So that's how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Business Points. My name is Samuel Odi. We sincerely appreciate you for joining us on today's edition of the program. Bye for now.